So let's instead move on to Love Bites. Yes, people, what you came here for,
What you
we're
came
finally
here
delivering. So
for.
you saw Love Bites.
I
Where did
did.
you saw them previously at New Cross Inn, or what we used
Yes,
to
I
call the
did.
sweatbox?
Vastly different
Oh, just sorry.
scenario situation.
I hate to interject, but just one thing before we continue. We were talking about Necky a second ago, and we were also talking about like fake merch. Look, I really respect that you put a Necky hat on, but you did spell it wrong. Okay, so just
Fair enough.
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Nikki, I thought I was where thought I was doing the right band. Yeah, you don't like my Nikki merch. So
So they're called Nick Air and then Trident are the number one visual K band. I know all
this
of
isn't
your
actually a
references.
band made top. It says band mind, so you just can't tell.
Oh man, so yeah, so is this your second time ever seeing Love Bites then?
Second time ever seeing them. They when I saw them at New Cross Inn, the venue was so intimate, so beautiful. But they actually did another gig. They extended the tour and did another London show, the Garage.
Yes.
But I unfortunately I literally because I'd gone down to London, I couldn't afford the the tickets and to go down to London again to see them. But I will treasure the New Cross Inn gig for the rest of my life because I feel like the people in that room, that handful of people that fit it somehow in that tiny fucking ass pub,
And we're
that is
hanging out the windows.
they were hanging out the window. The literal windows were steamed. It looked like we were all having a fucking orgy in there. It was crazy. It was hard to breathe in that place, you know. Fucking hell. God knows what we're all breathing in each other's freaking fumes. It was horrible, but also amazing at the same time. Um, because I don't think the Bites will ever do a gig like that ever again. So to go from something so intimate and literally standing like that far away from Fami and Midori the first time to seeing them on stage and obviously a bit more of a crowd and a little bit more of a it was a different experience, yeah. Um and yeah, I enjoyed it. It was nice to see them. I was just happy to see them again, to be fair. And
Okay, so
now for me the next thing is to see them in a stadium setting, is to see them like at a Budokan or something like that. So
but you went and saw them so it's 2 days ago, wasn't it, at the O2 Academy?
yeah,
So this is your second time seeing the band.
yeah.
Um, and immediately, I mean, the O2 Academy is a bit of a strange venue in that it's functional, it's good. It's been holding like Japanese artist gigs. It's kind of like the go-to venue when Japanese artists are coming to London and they just want to get a London gig in a safe, well-managed venue, but they don't expect to have like massive sales. O2 Islington is usually the safe one to go to. You know, it's well managed enough, and and
Well managed. That was
well,
actually
we'll get
that was the same place I saw Hitsu, and the waiting times for
well,
those
yeah,
weren't exactly great
that
either. So
that's why I kind of wanted to like slightly cover that with the fact that it's managed by a company who have a complaints department at least, rather than John, the local booking agent. So it's you know, O2 Islington is at least like a safe place for bands who are coming a long way to book into. But yeah, so how did you kind of feel like this went? Less of a all-time weird event, but did the venue suit them?
um, I don't know.
Oh,
So
okay.
this gig was a bit weird for me, in the sense that the complete opposite of Broken by the Scream in a weird sense. My expectations for Love Bites were probably impossibly high to start off with.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, And where I said like the Broken by the Scream, like the crowd was really up for it. The crowd for the Love Bites one actually felt a bit flat.
Really?
There was a lot of people that weren't quite as energetic like as I thought they would be. There were like pockets of people doing the hands and stuff like that, but for a large majority, it felt like I mean I was doing the fist bumping as well. I was doing like the hey. There was just like
Mm.
no one around me that really wanted to do it. There was a little pocket of people that were like ahead of me to the slightly to the center, and they were just at it the entire freaking gig, and I thought they were
Okay,
amazing. And I was
I
just
want
like, I
to.
wish like the rest of the crowd were like them.
Can
But
I ask you a little bit of a question? Sorry,
yeah,
because
go
I just want to get context on that before you move on to the next point. Um, Again, my memory on like UK gigs, as much as I helped organize them back in the day, is a little bit out of date now. Um, with London-based fans, especially when, in the politest possible way, obviously, we kind of know the fan base tends to be a little bit older for bands like Lovebites. Is this because I don't think of Lovebites so much as being the band where you see people jumping and moshing, maybe a bit, but it never feels to me like that band. It feels more like rock aficionados there,
yeah,
just sort of
definitely.
like zoning out. Do you think it was more that than the lack of energy? It's just everyone was kind of more zoned in, or
I think there was a couple of reasons. One, this gig was on a
okay?
Monday night. Um, I like.
Oh
I'm just
yes.
gonna say that straight away. It was Monday. Like, I don't know how much that affected like the people going in or whatever. Maybe a lot of people hadn't had a few more pints than
Oh,
they
that's
would
gonna fuck you up.
normally.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay, I got work in the morning. So that was a bit of a
I went
shame.
and saw Broken by the Scream last night.
Yeah, exactly. Many had. There was many of the same people. There was definitely a crossover from Broken by the Scream to Love Bites. Um, but yeah, like the girls looked a bit tired. I know that like I'm probably going to get some flack for that because the girls still performed absolutely amazingly, with like the utmost professionalism, but they did seem tired, like a little bit. Like Haruna, bless her little cotton socks. Like she
Well,
was
I think you're gonna get more flack for using that phrasing, but yeah.
yeah, like just literally, she was amazing and she gave everything. But she looked like behind that drum kit, she just looked like she was like half like
It, it
just
is
tight.
worth pointing out for anyone who, because obviously, as you said, this was the end of their tour,
It
but just
was,
give
yeah.
it a little idea of what that actually involves. This is just the last few stops before they arrived with you. So you saw them on the night of the third. 2 nights before that, I mean, it's 2 nights, but still 2 nights before that, they were in Paris. And then
I
two nights
believe their
before
travel got
that, they were
delayed as
in
well. I
Well,
believe,
yeah,
yeah.
they were in Netherlands the night before that, and then literally the night before that, they were playing a festival in Germany, I believe. So yeah, they'd had a really intense tour before they turned up. So yeah, that there's a good reason, as you say, why they probably looked like they'd really been through the ringer a little bit by the time they got to London.
Yeah, I heard as well, like I said, from the Paris show that they had like a delayed boat or something like that, something messed up, and they had like an extra day or a couple of hours in Paris. So that probably threw them off a little bit in terms of this one. But the girls were still amazing. The crowd as well. It was a I don't know. It was a weird one for me personally. Like I think many people going to that gig will probably hear this and be like, "Oh, what really? I thought the gig was great." But when I compare it to many other bands or my experience again in the New Cross Inn, because that's all I've got to go off, the atmosphere was like it was massively more energetic there than it was here. Um,
Do you think that's the sweatbox element that everyone was just like pressed into the venue? Is like,
it was, but even despite it being hot, stuffy, and like unable to breathe, like the energy in the place was insane.
I think
Uh,
that I was just saying is that that might be the reason is because like when people are in that situation, the last thing you want to do is stand still. So even though you've got no energy, you just kind of like almost paralytic
yeah,
way,
so
just whereas if you're in a comfy room, you're like, this is a good solo.
yeah, the crowd did pick up a little bit towards the end of the gig, I feel like, for the last couple of songs. But for a large majority of it, I was kind of like, that was really weird. The one thing I am looking forward to in Japan, and I know this is incredibly ironic now, what I'm about to say. I do recognize this, but I'm looking forward to going to Japan where like there's going to be a crowd with no fucking phones. Uh,
Oh God, there wasn't fun. Oh, of
there
course there
were
was
there were
fun.
phones everywhere again, which is really iconic because I fucking filmed a lot of the show for my blog. Um, but
I will say, I know that you only film in short bursts and you tend to go to the back to film, but still, yeah, I mean, yeah.
yeah, I tried to do it in like I've always mentioned, I always try to do it in 30-second bursts. So you'll never. most of the time, unless there's something really special happening, you will not see a full, you'll never see like a full song on my vlog. It will always be in 20, 30-second bursts. Because I said this before, yeah, I want to record, but I also want to enjoy it. I'm there because I like the bands as well. I love the bands. I want to enjoy the experience as much as obviously that it's, the content creation is kind of my job and your job, a little bit. So there's always that like war of worlds where like, I really want to enjoy it, but I also need the cut. Like I also know I need to get the video out. So it's it's one of those, which is kind of awesome for you a little bit because you can go into these gigs like, well, I'm not allowed to record anyway, so I can just like enjoy the
Well,
gig.
I mean, the thing is the, and this was maybe something that it might be more difficult there in all fairness, but this is something I might recommend to you because, like, as you know, a lot of the time, if I record a gig in Japan, what I do is I just contact the venue in advance and go, look, I'm going to put a camera at the side of the stage if you're okay with that. And if they, so as I don't want to hold it up, but I do, this is my YouTube thing. I want to do some video. Can I just put a camera at the corner of the street stage? So I just get a GoPro, put it on my little stand and I usually put it just on the top of one of the speakers at the side, filming downwards. And so I've done so many footages like that where it's okay, it's not the perfect angle, but you get like to see the stage and people get to see
Yeah.
like performance aspects. I tend to find, and there's some venues, if it's a small venue, they'll let you put the camera at the back on like the mixing desk, just filming forwards, or they might have their own camera and they'll send you footage. That's less common, but some of them will do that. Ultimately, I find like that is usually the easiest way of doing it because like a lot of these venues in Japan, as you say, it'll just be like no filming. And to be honest, I fucking love that there's no filming rules because, well, I mean, as you're saying, it's a
Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah, I felt bad. Like I don't know if the guy will behind me will ever watch this, but I did get a tap on the shoulder from one of the guys who was like, "Dude, can you like I can't see," and it was what made me laugh. And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry." I was like, I was like trying to explain. I do a YouTube channel. I try and only try to do it in 30-second bursts, but then I took my phone down only for my phone to go down and the cunt in front of me to have his hand in the air with a fucking phone. So
Do you know,
like
I
even the
love the
guys
idea.
around me just looked and was like just looked at the entire row and everybody has got their phone in the air and I like you know
I
they
I
just
mean,
they all chuckled at that and I was just like yeah
I I think it's funny because like sorry, just in my head, I imagine he taps you on the shoulder, you turn around. Oh, sorry, I'm a YouTuber, but
no I was just I
done it
was
that way. Do it that way. But no, you joke. But the funny thing is though, is that I kind of think about the energy of the audience. And I hate to say it because, like, as you know, you've been with me. If I go to a gig, I like to just jump around, have fun. I pogo everywhere. Won't go home until my legs have turned to jelly. Um, and yet at the same time, when I went to that gig here in Korea, the caramel candid one, and just everyone took out their phones, it really ruined my want to do that. Like my want to jump and dance around was kind of just d massively diminished by just being there with all these phone screens in front of me.
yeah
I'm just like,
um
what the fuck is the point? It's like, no, like these people are not enjoying this. They're, no offense to the other people in the audience, but kind of also offense to the people in the audience because it's like,
yeah I mean
go,
like I said
just
fair
watch the
play
gig.
so a lot of these venues I've been to people still have their phones out but there's always been a sense of atmosphere and I just feel like the Lovebites one as much as it pains me to say like it felt like a lot of people had their phones out but and the energy levels weren't quite matching what the girls were doing on stage if that makes sense um
Well, I
uh,
mean, yeah.
yeah it was a bit of a weird one for me I was in on that in terms of the atmosphere for the crowd I was a little disappointed that's not again and that's nothing to take away from the girls. I thought the girls all performed professionally, like amazingly. Every note was nailed. It was, the performance you want from them.
Well,
Um,
let's like focus a little bit therefore on like the positives of the show because I mean the thing is that even if they had maybe had like a long arduous tour, things going wrong, and maybe if the crowd was a little bit of a mixture of tired on Monday night and people holding up their phones, I'm sure like in the show, as you say, there was probably a lot of real highlights. So what were like the highlights of this? Obviously, they're touring to promote Outstanding Power, which in my opinion, I still think it's their best album ever. They're t touring on the back of that. What was your kind of like highlights of this gig? What really kind of rescued it
I
for you?
think for me, it will probably be Fami actually.
Fami!
She got an amazing amount of love. Like I couldn't believe the I felt a little bit actually kind of bad for the other girls because like there was loads of Fami chants like Fami, Fami, Fami. But there was like no Midori, like no
Hey,
Miyako.
hey, they know when they took her on that she was an internet
Yeah.
person before they took her on. They knew what they were doing there.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, I was kind of there was one moment in the show where I was just like, I had to scream out, "Midori, I love you," just to give some other girl just some love because Fami did steal the show, I think, for
Poor Asami. She's
quite a
standing
bit.
up there. She's like, I'm the lead singer of a band. Someone
Yeah,
see
I'm
me.
the like,
Do it.
Eminem D12. I'm the lead singer of this band. um, and it's just like, yeah, like Fami did steal the show there. But it was a great comparison again, going back to what I can compare it to with the new Crossing. With the new Crossing, she was fairly new at that time. She'd only just kind of like joined the band. And she was still, I want to say learning the ropes a little bit. She still had that smile and that, that bubbly personality shone through.
She's still got the smile now. It's like the
She's still got
smile
the
has
smile from
finally
now,
left.
but
She
never
can join.
now like the chains have been like removed, the shackle, like she it definitely feels like she's part of the group and she hams it up now and she's got her own personality shines through. She's just more charismatic and yeah, she did really kind of like steal the show, I think, for a lot of people. And again, that's nothing taken away from both Miyako and Midori. I think both of them are absolutely incredible. Miyako's piano segments and Asami as well played a bit of piano as well. Um, is
Oh yeah,
absolutely
that's because Asami's got that beautiful song on the new
yeah,
album. So was she playing that as well, right?
yeah, she was. So she was on the piano while the girls were soloing, which was really cool to see. So they all had their moments. Maybe with the exception of Haruna. I mean, again, Haruna never gets enough love. It's if there's one thing I would ever criticize about Lovebites is that girl. That girl needs more attention.
We did a
um,
whole video about how Haruna needs more attention, didn't we? Because I think that's something we universally agree is Haruna is like has always been one of the strong points
yeah,
of Love Bites
I
is
don't think she's
consistently
underrated by
contributed.
Lovebites fans. I think she's probably considered one of the best drummers like out there, especially with her double peds. Oh, the woman has endless amount of energy. But in like a band setting on stage, and I realize as well at the same time that there's only so much only so much you can kind of highlight a drummer a little bit. But I would like more sort of like Haruna-esque kind of focus.
No, I was just having a little look, and when you saw them at New Cross Inn, Fami had been with the band for 18 months at that point, so about a year and a half, which obviously is still fairly early days for that kind of thing. Whereas now, when you saw her a couple of days ago, she's been with them nearly 4 years now. And if you actually think about that, with I mean, when did the band form again? Because let's just have a look.
I think it was 2017.
I think so.
Might
I
even
think it
be
was a couple
early.
of years before I found them in 2019.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
I
currently
like I said, I
20.
discovered them in 2019, so I'm just trying to think how long they've been. They might have been together like
Same here,
3 years
yeah.
before I found them.
2016. Apparently, their first live show was November 2016. So right at the end of
2016.
2016. I mean, the thing is that what they did prior, I mean, less than 6 years prior to Fami joining. So if you think about when Miho actually would have sort of departed her duties and everything, Fami has been there almost she's
Almost as long.
it's not long until she becomes the longest serving bassist of Love Bites, and we still think of her as being new, obviously, because I think that's more because we're so familiar with Love Bites activity prior to Fami
Right.
and Fami activity prior to Love Bites.
Mhm.
So in a way it's still something where we're so used to thinking of what they are separate that it's like really having to drill the fact in that no, Fami is not the new girl by any measure. She's been there nearly half a decade, and soon she'll be the longest serving bassist the band has ever had. So,
I think it's in terms of releases as well, because I remember obviously when Fami just joined, their album was pretty much already done by that
yeah,
point when she joined. So
yeah.
like as although she was in the band when that released, it never felt like she had like a massive hand in it, even though I'm
It was
sure
more
she
of a Miho
probably
album.
did. But for all intents and purposes, you know how an album's produced. It takes months before it hand to set it up. So that was probably already way in the works before Fami.
And she wasn't really in a position to say, look, I want to do
Yeah,
this on
I
the
want to
album. It was
do
more a
this. I
case
want to
of
have
like,
this. Yeah, exactly. So it like as weird as it is that first album she was in kind of it felt she was like it never felt like hers a little bit. Whereas Our Standing Power feel to me feels like the first Family album properly
it,
in
it's
terms of
worth saying as
songwriting
well that Lovebites EP2, I mean, yeah, that was her
and
first
that
real
as well.
chance to sort of
Yeah,
spread her like skills onto their music more. I think the difference really with Lovebites EP2 though, is first of all, the name, it's a callback to the old school. So straight away you're not going to get overly strident. And even when they were working on that, that was still something they were working on when she was very new. So I think we all kind of knew at the time we were going to hear more Fami, but it's not like she was suddenly just going to like go stamp all over the sound. But yeah, Outstanding Power is where she really,
yeah.
yeah.
In terms of comparisons, if we want to compare like what like the Family like this being like Alkaline Pound being her first sort of popular influence, it kind of reminds me of the similar situation we have with Momoko for Baby Metal at the minute because she kind of joined, and this album, the album that we thought we were going to get Momoko for, is more of a collab. And although she does have parts in it, we're still kind of waiting to this day to have a proper sort of
I
Momo album. Like,
I'm gonna get a little bit of shit of this because I basically in one way I agree. I feel like we've not had I feel like we've barely had any Momoko songs on Love on Babe Mel. But I
mm,
think the big difference is that with Momoko, she feels like she's brought in because they need a third person, which Baby Metal do. But in the
yeah,
case of Love Bites, they write their own songs. Yeah, they make their own songs. So adding a new member is not so much about sort of filling the sound up. It's more about this person will actually now be in charge of writing a significant part of the song.
yeah,
And in some cases, as we've heard, writing, Halo anyone, like the best song on the album, hate me all you want. She's basically been responsible for writing fantastic stuff, including full songs, bass lines, all of that stuff. So yeah, I think her involvement is much more inclined to make big noticeable changes than
yeah.
Momoko's.
I
Although
agree.
I see a
I
point,
can agree with that. And like I said, you could kind of hear it in like you said, EP, EP2 kind of in small bits, but without standing power, it definitely felt like Fami was just like unshackled a little bit and more confident to do what she needed to do. And yeah, it kind of really showed in the live performance as well. Like when her parts came on, she really shined. So yeah, big love for Fami, big love for all the girls. To be fair, it was an amazing show from them.
How do you feel as a general though about the band? Like 2 years on from New Cross in, near enough 2 years on from New Cross in.
Um,
I actually think it's a bit more than 2 years. Anyway, with that all being considered, how do you actually feel about them having changed? Because you said that they looked a little bit more like they had a bit of a hard tour this time, but I wonder how, musically on stage, like the stage presence, their performance with the new songs, did you get a different kind of aura from them in any way? Using a
um,
pseudoscience word.
Again, it's kind of hard to compare to New Cross Inn. Like New Cross Inn felt more intimate. Like they had no space to perform like they usually would.
Mm,
So it came across more organic, I think, in New Cross
I
Inn.
get that.
So with the stage performance, obviously they've probably done the same stick on each stage for the last 15 nights in a row,
Well
and
rehearsed.
you can kind of tell, like even though it's still amazing, it's still fucking phenomenal. You can tell that they're just going through the motions a little bit on this one. So I think for the large part of the audience, I feel like at now, like they know what's going to happen before it happens, if that makes sense. Like you know what to expect. And I
Yeah.
feel like maybe with Low Bites, if they were to do like another tour or another album, I would like to see them sort of mix up the stage performances maybe a little bit.
All right. So here's a question that we've said about other bands before in the past. I'm interested to see what you say regarding Love Bites on this one. Um, if you if someone came to you and said, "Right, Neon, I've got a choice. I can either see Love Bites. I got choose between two tickets, red pill, blue pill. I can either choose between seeing Love Bites at the New Cross Inn where they're playing, and it looks like it's going to be overbooked and it's going to be a hot day, or I can see them at Tokyo Dome or the Budokan. It's going to be like huge. I'm going to be sitting in the balcony. It's going to be a huge thing. Um, they'll be far away, but it'll be in the Budokan. It'll be huge. Which one would you recommend?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to answer this in two different ways.
Okay, answer both of them.
Haven't experienced like the really small intimate gig, and again, I'm not gonna keep harping on about it. I realize it was a once in a blue moon kind of situation, which might never and hasn't happened again since. Um, but if I know in going into that one, I would pick the new Crosshair because it just was incredible. But if I was going into these, if you offered me these two tickets and I didn't know about the new Crosshair, I would probably pick the Budokan one because
Well, yeah, that's why I
yeah.
give you like a third party person. It's like so with you now knowing, you would recommend the new crossing though.
Yeah, I would recommend it. Like you said, there was something about that night that was truly special. I don't think it will ever get matched. But I would still say I would 100 and a billion, quadrillion percent go and see Lovebites in the Budokan because I guarantee it'll be absolutely freaking incredible. And more so, probably even more spectacular than it probably were on this stage because there's only so much you can do on a flat stage, and the Budokan's at home, and there's way more prep kind of like put into
Well,
that.
for all the things we said about O2 as Thington earlier, the truth is it is a bit of a bland venue. It's about as bland
Yeah.
can be, that venue.
As it is, it's true. There's like, when you're on these type of stages, there's only so much you can do. And like Love Bites, um, what probably makes it difficult for them compared to like, I mean, going back to Broken by the Scream, the reason why
Yeah.
Broken by the Scream can really emote is because they're not playing anything. The four girls on stage, and you can have one giving you love hearts. You can have the other one giving you little waves and doing little things and interacting with the crowd. Lovebites can do that, but they're still playing instruments at the same time. It's harder for them to sort of interact all the time with a crowd. There are still moments. There's still Fami smiles. There's still Miyako solos. Once Midori sticks her thigh on up when she's about to go a solo,
You and
shit's
Midori's
about to go
thighs,
down.
bro. So I'm really worried that one day I'm gonna like sort of like just see inside your computer and there's just gonna be a folder and it's gonna be full of Midori thigh photographs,
Midori's thigh pics, yeah, definitely.
thigh JPEGs. Yeah.
But you know what you're getting with her when she, like you said, when she puts her thigh up and she hits that rock star pose and then she just starts soloing. It's fantastic, and they have those moments. But like again, when you're doing 20 shows on a tour, and you kind of do the same thing every single night, a little bit, and it did just look at that point. I think at this last show, they looked a little bit, not again, a little bit more tired than I've probably ever seen them on a DVD or at the other performances I saw them at. So
It
I think
might
it was
just have
just a
been the
case of
exhaustion of dealing with the O2 is
yeah,
dealing with Islington as a
probably.
general.
Probably. Like if you told me to rate this gig, it would still be a fucking solid 9 out of 10. It was still fucking brilliant. And I'm
So
excited because I'm a
the
massive Love Bites fan.
you'd rate the band though, but you'd also rate the event. So the band, I
Yeah,
get the
the
feeling you're
the
gonna give it like a 9 or 10, but the event, I feel like you're gonna give it like a 4 or a 5.
like a five at the very best. Yeah. Like again, the wait time, the organization was crap. I will praise the venue for one thing though. And we were talking about like how like no venue in fucking London ever has AC. This one did, and thank fuck it did because it was like I couldn't believe it. I was like, there was cold air blowing on me constantly. I was like, what the fuck is this sensation? Cold air in a gig in London. What's going on?
Arctic
Um,
Love Bites gig.
yeah,
Okay, so overall though, great. You really enjoyed them, but you did feel like it maybe wasn't the best setting, and that maybe the band are at the end of their tour. They're probably just like sort of they're all good. They're kind of exhausted, but they've
yeah,
managed to get there. And
yeah. I mean, they were still great. I know that like I'm gonna say all these things, and I know the comment section is gonna be like, oh, but they were fucking amazing, and they were, but they were, like you said, you could tell that they didn't quite have the energy they
you
normally
you
would.
could
The
you could be
venue was a bit
amazing and
flat.
also be like a little bit like, "Phew." I've had a
Yeah,
long
yeah,
talk.
I guarantee, like, as soon as they got off stage, like, the first thing they're doing is putting their guitars down, finding the biggest, comfiest sofa, and just going, boom. You know, like that. That's where the kind of the sense I got from them. The gig, the girl's still amazing. The venue was a little bit flat. I thought the crowd was a little bit flat as well. I'd love people to correct me if I'm wrong. There were pockets of people spread around that were still giving it all, and I do
But you
think,
couldn't see them past the phones.
yeah, it picked up towards the end, but I thought it was a bit flat compared to other venues I've been to. Maybe, and again, weirdly, maybe I'm a little bit distorted by the fact that the Broken by the Scream venue, like literally the night before, was chaotic in the best of ways. The energy was like so freaking high. So coming to the Love Bites one the next night probably didn't help their cause because it felt a little bit underwhelming. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it just felt underwhelming to me because of the literally 24 hours before that from Broken by the Scream. I don't know. But I was expecting the crowd to be just a little bit more up for it, and I thought it was lukewarm at best.
Yeah. So I guess that's the answer. If you want to go see Love Bites, go see them
Go
somewhere
see them
where
on the Monday night when you need
people,
to when everybody needs to go work the next
go
day.
see them in a hot, overcrowded venue where people are in too much suffering pain to actually get the phones out of their pocket and dance around like crazy, have fun.